Good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Working Trader, where we look at the Euro USD and GBP USD and come up with trade ideas for the day. So let's jump right into it. Looking at Forex Factory, we have ISM Services PMI. Uh, that's a medium impact news event. Okay. Yes, it's a red folder here. But in the grand scheme of things, compared to CPI and federal funds rate and NFP, we would classify this more on the medium scale of impact. Okay, so this is the only news event we are expecting around 3 p.m. Okay, so let's jump into the charts. Let's see what we have. Looking at the Euro USD first. Okay, let's look at the Euro USD first. Okay. Okay. So for the Euro USD, we have been expecting, or we are saying that we are in a pullback. Okay, so we've had this bullish break of structure to the upside, and then we had a strong push up, and after a break of structure, we expect a pullback, and that is what has been happening. And now the pullback has sort of stalled, so we don't know whether it has stalled in order to kind of come back into this fair value gap before it continues, right? Because my expectation is that we could retrace all the way to the origin of the move, which is this demand, which is the decisional, which broke both internal and swing structure. Okay, so that is the expectation, that we expect price to at least continue to drop until we mitigate this demand. At the moment, price has stalled and we've had this inside bar candle, so we could be looking at possibly price pushing up to mitigate or to fill this fair value gap, right, or this imbalance, and either tap into this fractal structure right here. All right, so that's a possibility, but as it stands, intentions are clear. We are in a retracement, so I'm expecting price to continue to drop until at least we mitigate this demand. So looking at the 4-hour, this was our last swing break of structure, our last internal break of structure to the upside. This was our internal range, so this is what we're working with at the moment. We have this POI right there. It's a fractal structure, supply demand, so price could mitigate this, all right, before it resumes the downtrend. Okay, if this fails, then we are expecting it to maybe mitigate this one at the top, okay, which is still fresh and unmitigated. We have an imbalance right here. Okay, this one as well, we have an imbalance. That imbalance is being currently filled. Okay, so that imbalance could be filled, and then we mitigate this supply to then continue downtrend. Okay, so expectation is that if the downtrend is to continue, supply areas will still hold. Okay, supply areas will still hold. However, this could be used as liquidity, okay, for price to then reach this supply at the top before it continues downwards. All right, and this is if it's going to continue. Otherwise, this could be the turn, okay, where the retracement is complete and price is now ready to continue bullish until it takes out the swing high, which is weak. So looking at the 1 hour, we are already having internal bullish breaks of structure. Okay, so from the 1 hour, this is what we have now. We have internal bullish break of structure, and we've made a higher high, all right, internally. Okay, so we're at this low, made a high, higher low, higher high. Okay, however, it could just be to reach into this area of supply. Okay, it could be just to reach into this area of supply. Okay, I could see the supply being liquidated, okay, or the supply failing. Why? Because we have this trend line liquidity right over there. Okay, we've had this failure swings, so it is possible, okay, that price could just liquidate right that and then continue bearish, right? Or it could liquidate that and then pull back, continue, mitigate this supply at the top, okay, before then continuing down, right? So as it stands, this is a very good POI. Okay, it just got good imbalances. All right, 2 extended range candles. You know, it's with the trend. It's at the extreme of the 1 hour internal structure. Okay, pullback could be complete once we reach the extreme. All right, so yeah, I'll be looking for shorts anywhere around this area. Okay. However, I'm also cautious because we have resting liquidity right there. So it is possible that this area could fail, okay, simply for price to sweep it, all right, take the liquidity right there, and then continue with the bearish trend. Okay, so we're still bearish. That's the bias. We're still bearish. So we're just looking at either this POI to hold position. That means you'll be looking at a confirmation trade, or we wait for this to fail, right? We sweep these highs and then look for a confirmation to go lower. Okay, so that's for the Euro USD. So on to GBP USD. We do have this break of structure. Internal is bullish, swing is bullish. All right, after break of structure we expect a pullback. Okay, pullback already started. Okay, could it have ended? We don't know. Okay, but we did mitigate this fair value gap, all right, or this imbalance. So it could be that this could be where the the pullback ends, okay, and then price starts to target this weak high, and then we continue bullish, or it's just enough to facilitate that it also mitigates this fair value gap right there, right, or fill it to mitigate this structure right there before price then continues down towards the origin of the move, which is this demand at the bottom here. So price is still in the extremes, so anything is possible. So we just have to be aware of both narratives. Okay, so looking at the 4-hour, on the 4-hour we have this POI, so we could see price mitigate this POI and then continue bearish. That's a possibility. Or because we've already mitigated, well, on the daily, this is a fair value gap. On the 4-hour, it's also a fair value gap, which was filled. Okay, which was filled, and then we've had this. Is it? Yes. So we've had this break of structure internally. All right, but the movement up is weak. Okay, so this could just be to get into this POI to then continue bearish. So right now on the 4-hour for the pound, it's not very clear. And then looking at the 1H. Okay, so supply on 1H is already failing. Okay. So we had the sweep, and then we had the first mitigation, and then we had a good reaction. However, it did not go on to make a lower low. All right. So now what has happened is this supply has failed. Okay. So we could be heading up until we mitigate probably this supply which is nested in the 4-hour. Okay. We also have this fractal structure as well, that's nested, which is closer to the proximal of the 4-hour. However, we may see this fail, and then so my expectation is probably we might go and mitigate the extreme. Okay, we might go and mitigate the extreme. So alright, so looking at it from a different lens, alright, we have resting liquidity up there. So let's see. Okay, so we'd have resting liquidity up there. So this is also a weak high, right? A weak high internal. So it is likely that we could sweep all the way, right? Take this liquidity before we then have the fuel to then continue bearish. So on the pound, it's not quite as clear. All right, on the pound is not quite as clear as of now. So my expectation though is in the meantime, we internally, because supply is failing or supply has failed, all right, so we've broken internal structure to the upside. So in the meantime, we could look for longs, okay, just to get to this 4-hour supply. But once this 4-hour supply is mitigated, then shorts are now in play, okay, or rather shorts are high probability compared to going long. So let's mark that out. So we have a break of structure right there. That's internal. Okay, so we have our internal break of structure. And do we have any POIs? Well, that one is not there. That is failed. So internal. This is the extreme that is not mitigated, is it? Alright. Oh, it's just barely been mitigated. Okay. Barely been mitigated. And then we have this, which is the decisional. Okay. That's the decisional that broke structure on the 1 hour. Okay. That's the decisional that broke structure on the 1 hour. So internally, we have shifted bullish. So we could be looking to just go short term long. Okay. Just to get into this for our POI. Okay. Before we then, so it will be better if we go on and mitigate the extreme, and then we can now start to look for shorts. Okay, now we can then be able to start looking for shorts. If this fails, if we simply do a sweep, okay, a sweep of these highs, or sweep, right, this fails, and then we close back into the range, then it will be an indication that we might be continuing with the bearish swing trend. Okay, or at least that the pullback is still continuing. Okay, that the pullback is still continuing. So that's it for the pound and for the euro dollar. Otherwise, if you find value in this material, please hit the like and subscribe, and leave a comment. Otherwise, working trader out, and have a good day.